All right, class. So this is a continuation from the last video, which was the uh, second half, in a sense, of the medieval art. Now, this particular video is focused primarily on the Gothic era. All right. Now, the thing is, Gothic, if you look up the definition, it basically means relating to the Goths or the extinct East Germanic language, which provided the earliest manuscripts evidence of any Germanic language from 400 to 600 AD. The other definition of it is a style of architecture prevalent in the Western Europe in the 12th and 16th century. And that's what we are going to be focusing on. All right. Now, the thing is, it was first developed in northern France. Um, the typical Goth architecture had pointed arches, red vaults, the flying buttresses, along with large windows and elaborate traceries. The thing is, the traceries, this is one of the questions that a lot of students have been asking. What is that? So if you look at that picture to your right, if you look right dead center, that big picture that has like a little kind of flowery snowflake, if you want to go with that look, basically the stuff that makes the skeleton of it, that is the tracery. The stuff in the middle, that's where the stained glass would be put in. Um, so that's what it is. So that picture right there is basically what a Goth building would have. All right, tower, gable, the arcade, um, the rose window, things like that. Um, so that's what it is in a nutshell. All right. All right, so there is no notes on this particular slide because I wanted you to see a picture of a very much um, great example of a Goth building. Okay, as again, the pointy tops, the archways, the towers, all that stuff, the traceries. If you look on top and on the sides, the symmetry, the rhythmic symmetry of it too. What you see on one side, it's on the other. Um, it's not disproportioned. It's uh, very well done. And the thing is, as you look at it, there's several things we'll be talking about where you'll be like, okay, if you go back to the picture, you'll be like, oh, okay, now I see that. And hopefully that will help you distinguish the difference between a Gothic building and basically one that was done later on. Now, there was one thing that I forgot to talk about when it came to the notes, and that was that during the Gothic era, art, actual paintings and stuff like that, were not done differently than the artwork before. The pre-Romanesque, the Romanesque, the migration in solar, um, it really was the same. Now, the other thing was that became really popular were tapestries. Basically tapestries, they're not really blankets. They're basically like this hand woven type of cloth that's basically put up on walls. This particular picture has one in the behind the bed, as you can see. Um, it could be the tapestries could be anything. It could depict a battle. It could depict just design. It's whatever it want it to be, basically. So that's what a tapestry was, and that became very, very popular during the Goth era. Now, there's one thing that goes kind of hand in hand with the Gothic era. When people talk about the Gothic uh, Middle Ages, a lot of times people associate gargoyles with them. Now, the word itself, it's an old French word named gargouille. I could probably misspell that. I probably have. I'm sorry if I did. But thing is, it means throat in French. Now, the thing is, the gargoyles were first introduced in the 13th century, and they basically served two purposes. One of them was supernatural, and one of them more practical. The first one, the supernatural, was for it to fight off evil or unwanted spirits or creatures away from the building. Um, that was the supernatural. The practical one is that it diverted rainwater from the building. So whenever rain would come down, it would collect, and then the gargoyles would spit it out. Basically, there was like a little funnel, and it would go through its mouth and then out of its mouth. So if you ever wonder where the word gargle, when you get some water, when you're brushing your teeth and stuff like that, that's where it comes from. Gargle, gargoyle, garguli. So there you go. Hopefully you learned something new today with that. Um, the thing is, they were used, gargoyles were used as a water spout projected from the upper parts of the building or a roof gutter to throw water clear of the walls or and foundation. Okay, it's just to get the water away from the building. Okay. Um, Now the thing is, a lot of people think when they see gargoyles, oh my God, they're evil. Oh my goodness, they're so horrible, things like that. But that whole idea that gargoyles are evil, they're kind of like Satanist type of thing, um, or demonish. Thing is, that is more of a recent type of thinking. Back in the medieval times, especially the Goth era, they knew that they weren't representations of evil or death or Satan or whatever you want to say, um, because they knew what the purpose of them were. It's not that they were attracting evil, as they were fighting off evil spirits, and also that they were used in a sense as gutters, clear the water out of the away from the buildings. So again, the whole idea of gargoyles being evil or devilish creatures, that's more of a recent type of mentality. All right, so in the early Goth era, which was about 1150 to 1250, there was a great deal of architecture that was being created and being built. It was on the rage. People really liked it, and they were commissioned to build, buildings, cathedrals in the Gothic style. Now, during the High Gothic era, which is from 1250 to 1375, there was a decline in the architecture. Okay, um, there were still some being built. It's just that it wasn't being built as much as before. You have to remember, these buildings were not just made up in a year. Okay, they didn't have the cranes and things like that like we have now. It took a while to create these buildings, these massive churches and other types of forms of buildings. Um, so uh, again, it took time. Now, the thing is, later on in the international late Gothic, or even they call it the flamboyant Goth era, which is in 1375 to 1450, this is when the Gothic look really spread through Europe. It wasn't just isolated to like France and England. It spread all over. Now, the thing is, it got a lot of appreciation, but not just for churches, but also for town halls and even for domestic residences. People are like, you know what? I like that style. I want my house to look like that. And again, the uh, peasant people could not afford to have somebody create their house to look like a Goth style. They couldn't. It was mainly the nobles and the kings. Okay. Now, it was at this time that artists and architects of the Gothic buildings started to be like, you know what? I made this amazing, building, this amazing piece of art. I deserve some type of credit. And they wanted some recognition. And this is the time when the Renaissance is really starting to kick in. Because you have to remember, if you noticed, the medieval artwork, it doesn't say who made it. Nobody really took claim of it because they saw it as more as I'm doing this artwork in the glory of God. I'm doing it for His glory and not my own. So that's why at times the medieval artwork, nobody really knows who did it. It's because it's not they were doing it for fame and glory. It was that they were trying to show an appreciation to God. You gave me this gift, so I am going to create something in honor of you. All right, so here is your last question. So my question to you is this. Before you took this class, before you heard this lesson, did you or do you still believe that gargoyles are associated with evil or demons or something nasty or just something wrong? Why or why not? Okay, so again, before you heard this lesson, before you came into this class, maybe even now, do you believe that gargoyles are associated with evils and demons? Okay, so go ahead, explain your answer. So that's the end of this video. Um, so again, once you're finished, whether you have the packet or pieces of paper, make sure you put your name on it. And there's a basket right next to the door. Turn it in there. Do not, I repeat, do not hand it to me. I do not put it on my desk, 'cause chances are it will get lost. And if it gets lost, then I'm sorry, it got lost. Um, that's why I tell you, put it in the basket, the black basket next to the door. Okay, so that's it for today. I hope you guys learned something new and hope to see you in class. Okay, so take care, have fun.